July 8, 1099. Some 15,000 starving Christian soldiers begin the siege of Jerusalem by marching in a religious procession around the city as its Muslim defenders watch. The siege of Jerusalem was waged by European forces of the First Crusade, resulting in the capture of the holy city of Jerusalem from the Muslim Fatimid Caliphate, and laying the foundation for the Christian Kingdom of Jerusalem, which lasted almost 2 centuries. July 8, 1497. Vasco da Gama set sail on the first direct European voyage to India. Vasco da Gama was a Portuguese explorer and the first European to reach India by sea. His initial voyage to India by way of Cape of Good Hope was the first to link Europe and Asia by an ocean route, connecting the Atlantic and the Indian Oceans and therefore, the West and the Orient. This is widely considered a milestone in world history, as it marked the beginning of a sea-based phase of global multiculturalism. After decades of sailors trying to reach the Indies, with thousands of lives and dozens of vessels lost in shipwrecks and attacks, da Gama landed in Calicut on May 20, 1498. July 8, 1876. The Hamburg Massacre. Prior to the 1876 United States presidential election results in the deaths of 6 African Americans of the Republican Party, along with 1 white assailant. The Hamburg Massacre was a riot in the American town of Hamburg, South Carolina, in July 1876, leading up to the last election season of the Reconstruction era. It was the first of a series of civil disturbances planned and carried out by white Democrats in the majority black Republican Edgefield district, with the goal of suppressing black American civil rights and voting rights and disrupting Republican meetings, through actual and threatened violence. July 8, 1832. The Dow Jones Industrial Average reaches its lowest level of the Great Depression, closing at 41.22. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, Dow Jones Industrial Average, Dow Jones, or simply the Dow, is a stock market index of 30 prominent companies listed on stock exchanges in the United States. The Great Depression was a severe worldwide economic depression between 1929 and 1939 that began after a major fall in stock prices in the United States. The economic contagion began around September 4, 1929, and became known worldwide on Black Tuesday, the stock market crash of October 29, 1929. The economic shock transmitted across the world, impacting countries to varying degrees, with most countries experiencing the Great Depression from 1929. The Great Depression was the longest, deepest, and most widespread depression of the 20th century and is regularly used as an example of an intense global economic depression. July 8, 1937. Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan signed the Treaty of Sadabad. The Treaty of Sadabad, or the Sadabad Pact, was a non-aggression pact signed by Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan on July 8, 1937, and lasted for 5 years. The treaty was signed in Tehran's Sadabad Palace, and was part of an initiative for greater Middle Eastern-Oriental relations spearheaded by King Mohammad Zahir Shah of Afghanistan. Ratifications were exchanged in Tehran on June 25, 1938, and the treaty became effective on the same day. It was registered in League of Nations Treaty Series on July 19, 1938. In 1943, the treaty was automatically extended for a further 5 years because none of the signatories had renounced it. July 8, 1948. The United States Air Force accepts its first female recruits into a program called Women in the Air Force, WAF. Women in the Air Force, WAF, was a program which served to bring women into limited roles in the United States Air Force. WAF was formed in 1948 when President Truman signed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, allowing women to serve directly in the military. The WAF program ended in 1976 when women were accepted into the USAF on an equal basis with men. WAF was distinct from the Women's Auxiliary Ferrying Squadron, WAFS, a small group of female civilian transport pilots that was formed in 1942 with Nancy H. Love as commander. WAFS was folded into the Women Air Force Service Pilots, WASPs, in 1943. WASP was disbanded in December 1944. July 8, 2011. Space Shuttle Atlantis is launched in the final mission of the U.S. Space Shuttle program. Space Shuttle Atlantis is a space shuttle orbiter vehicle which belongs to NASA, the Spaceflight and Space Exploration Agency of the United States. Atlantis was manufactured by the Rockwell International Company in Southern California and was delivered to the Kennedy Space Center in eastern Florida on April 1985. Atlantis is also the fourth operational and the second-to-last space shuttle built. Its maiden flight was STS-51J, made from 3 to October 7, 1985. By the end of its final mission, Atlantis had orbited the Earth a total of 4,848 times, traveling nearly 126 million miles, 203 million kilometers, which is more than 525 times the distance from the Earth to the Moon. Atlantis is named after RV Atlantis, a two-masted sailing ship that operated as the primary research vessel for the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution from 1930 to 1966. July 8, 2021. President Joe Biden announces that the official conclusion of the U.S. involvement in the war in Afghanistan will be on August 31, 2021. The war in Afghanistan was an armed conflict in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2021. It began when an international military coalition led by the United States launched an invasion of Afghanistan, subsequently toppling the Taliban-ruled Islamic Emirate and establishing the internationally recognized Islamic Republic 3 years later. The 20-year-long conflict ultimately ended with the 2021 Taliban offensive, which overthrew the Islamic Republic and subsequently re-established the Islamic Emirate. It was the longest war in the military history of the United States, surpassing the length of the Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, by approximately 5 months. If you enjoyed the video, then please subscribe the channel. It's a click for you, but a world for me. Thank you and have a nice day.